It is
Good
Kurt
morning, you handsome devil.
Doolittle.
I can't hear you. What's going on? Oh, I don't have my, hold on.
Kurt. Oh my Lord.
There we go.
I can hear both of us. You have fresh coffee, I presume?
As usual, you sound like a proper gentleman.
Well,
Nice.
I know there's deception involved. I'm certain of it. Now, this I believe to be episode 2028.
That would sound about right to me. Is that right? Yes, that sounds right to me.
I want to thank the audience for attending. I hope we have a podcast going here soon. I hope we have some editing going on here soon. I want everybody to hit the like, subscribe, and do those buttons below in the comments. The comments are important to us. Today was.
Did you have your eggs and cheese and coffee?
I did. So I'm still working on the coffee part. I even cleaned my cup just for this episode. It's very nice.
I have a clean one too, and I've done my dishes and I've cleaned the house and everything. So
way ahead of the game.
don't know how that all happened, but it did.
It doesn't matter. It's like this. I figured out what my problem is dealing with Kurt. My problem dealing with Kurt is he's interested in too many things, and I'm trying to focus him on one thing to get done with his book. And so I'm going to focus his attention a little better here, audience. That's my goal here in the next coming weeks, and perhaps longer. I think it will be longer, but that's okay too. I had a good week, man. I got good, valuable insights by listening to James Lindsay's podcasts on the Marxist. I'm really impressed by that man's ability to hold his nose.
Seriously.
It's like, because I can't stand it. I mean, it's like, what a waste of time reading a bunch of what in Hebrew they would call bullshit. And I have stories to tell on this subject. This is good stories because it illustrates the group evolutionary strategies. So for the purpose to warm Kurt up. So I'm going to warm Kurt up by telling him stories and letting him drink some coffee. And then he can comment at will, anytime during the course of the story work. So we're going to go to Mesopotamia some thousands of years ago when they first begin organizing agriculture in the valley, the rich valley, the fertile river valley, where the people can accumulate and be taxed by the alpha males who live in the mountains all around, in like bubbling out of the quantum background. Just they can't be restrained. There's not enough room for them in the mountains. They must come down, and they see the fertile river valley and the taxable people and say, we must try to get those fat cats who went there 3 generations ago and are now grown soft. The alpha males are no longer alpha, and we will out alpha them. That's the plan. And so they do. So they do.
And there's a never-ending supply of bastards.
It's just quantum background at work. Right. So they swoop down with their bronze implements and replace the alpha males, the formerly alpha male groups who have been there for too many generations and are grown soft with the soft women and beautiful gold and all the velvets and all that stuff. And so they find the beta males. The beta males who have been serving the former alpha males just in a servile fashion, maintaining the matrix of this taxable civilization for the alpha civilization. That's their strategy. And they are happy to serve the new alphas because they don't care who the alpha is. Because if you
no difference
do not
between
resist,
them.
you certainly do not resist the alphas. They got good bronze and they're ready to use it. And anybody that stands in their way, they cut them into pieces. And so the beta males have learned, you don't be lippy with the alphas. You just serve and be happy being a beta and provide the matrix and organize the people and the women, especially the women, and make sure everybody's in order so that there has to be less slicing and dicing among the population so that the alphas may get their taxation and begin to grow soft again as the cycle continues. That's the story of Mesopotamian civilization. Now, those betas get very good at telling stories, as you might imagine, because they just tell whatever stories work to make it work. Now, meanwhile, in Western civilization, the Germans are chasing pigs around in the woods and raiding each other's stuff and taking each other's stuff and fighting about it. And there's no room for softness because somebody's always trying to steal your stuff. And we don't even have the betas. There's no room for betas. We got no betas. We're just chasing pigs, man. Everybody's got to be some kind of alpha or a woman, and it's okay. And that's how we roll in Western Europe. And it's like, so that's the story of where the group evolutionary strategies, where they come from. Does that cover it fairly well?
It really is. You could add two I mean, first of all, thank you. That was a great story because the humor that's so obvious, which is the human nature, explaining your story is quite humorous. If I wanted to amplify it, I would try to cover the difference between Mesopotamia and Egypt, and I would start out with a reminder that it was the priests that were there first. And so what happened is the alphas came down and they decided, well, I can keep using these priests to organize all this territory, but I can now use bronze and I can tax the living shit out of them. And that the difference is that there's deserts around the Nile and there's bad guys around Mesopotamia.
Just mountains full of guys percolating out. Because there's not enough room in the background for them.
So the difference is the priests in Mesopotamia versus the priests in Egypt, and they're different powers, and the monarchies in Mesopotamia, or the bad guys, and the monarchies in Egypt, and what those relationships are. In other words, the relative strength between the priests and the aristocracy, the priesthood and the military aristocracy. And so that comparison helps us. And then if you go to the Indus River Valley and say, where the fuck happened? Where's the aristocracy? Matter of fact, we're the priests. What happened here? And we still don't know, because there don't appear to be either group. So why did people get along just fine there? So we don't really know that. And then you bring in China and you go, okay, there's nothing but aristocracies, right? And there aren't really any priests, but they're all homogenous. So they can't quite form the tribes that they did in the Middle East, right? There's just a different way of organizing tribal people and organizing relatively homogenous people with similar lifestyles, because the whole Yellow River complex, etc., and that is essentially the same. So when you get to Egypt, you're like, okay, well, they have a stability, so they can stay. In other words, there's just deserts around Egypt. You can't get to the Nile.
Right, it's too far. It's too far. There's bad guys who can't make it. It's too far.
And the second thing is the green stuff is only walking distance from the Nile. And so you can police that thing with barges like all day long. And so it's like a fortress, really. It's Fortress Nile. We don't think of it that way, but I mean, it really is the fort. I mean, if you can't come down from the south or down from the north, that you're not going to get much done there, because they can just move all the troops by water from one place to another, right, with barges until the cows come home, and nothing you're going to be able to do to it. So the thing is, though, that the Egyptians got this safety, so they're actually trying to get a hold of more commerce, which is in the Mediterranean, between the Hittites in the north, the Mesopotamians in the east, and themselves in the south. And the problem is the Mesopotamians are surrounded by the largest number of hooligans, right? And so the Egyptians start say, well, this is a tribal area up here. It's not like Egypt. So how are we going to manage these tribes? We don't want to have to keep that. We can't do the same thing we do as in Egypt.
Came home work.
So we're going to pit the fuckers against each other. Now, how do you police a group with some tribe with other tribes? You find the tribe that everybody hates, and you enfranchise them. So that tribe is extremely dependent upon your good graces.
So proto-Leninism.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
Did you get it? Do you
That was
see
awful.
now?
Oh my goodness. Proto-Leninism at work.
So who were the proto-Lenins?
Mm-hmm.
They call the Hebrews. That's why they know how to write.
They're good
'Cause they-
betas. Everybody uses them as the beta.
Exactly. And they're freaking good at it. They've done it for thousands of years. So they went from Egypt, and the diaspora did the same thing. Well, they can't really, because of their culture was so successful that way, they really suck at building states. But they're really good at building communities, diasporic communities within other states.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So
By the way,
so-
the group is cohesive and persistent.
yes,
What you just said, in my opinion.
yes.
Okay.
And they just built a whole civilization around Leninism, what we call Leninism.
Civilization is a strong word for that, but okay.
Culture.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's hard to call a diasporic people a civilization, but it's really because in our terms, the way we mean it is you've got to include territory, right?
It has insufficient internal pressure
Right,
to generate a civilization, which would include a state.
right. But the thing is, their strategy is really good at creating an elite within a state, especially an elite that conspires with the government against the interests of the people. Did you hear what I just said?
Yeah,
Especially a group that conspires with the state against the interests of the people.
Okay, I'm gonna reframe that a little bit just for the audience, because Kurt is so inflammatory, and it is they're great at generating social construction that are against the interests of the people, that are in the interests of the ruling elite,
Right.
which is the same thing, but it's just a different pattern.
Yeah.
And the social construction is the social matrix, which I use that term intentionally because it implies the feminine social matrix, and it is like it points towards the feminine pattern of social influence.
Correct.
Narrative, and
Storytelling,
religious, yeah.
storytelling,
Magic.
social construction, loading and framing and obscuring, baiting into hazard, right? It's all the same tactic, which is just how do females, despite their comparative physical weakness for males, how do they build communities? That's how. Can they build polities? No, because they can't hold territory. But just as women create communities inside polities, the Hebrews learned to create communities inside polities. So they use the same strategy. We call this. So the problem I have is that I want to break it from Leninism to femalism.
Okay.
So I'm trying to, the thing that I fight with all the time is that I'm trying to show the continuous relationship between the physical world, the natural world, the behavioral world, and the behavioral world is only got two axes really, the male and the female, and that what you're talking about is the female group strategy applied. So the way I'll say this is this isn't like, whatever strategy you pick, which is extremely male or extremely female. I mean, you could call the Mongols the extremely male, and there's everybody else is some
less.
something
less.
And you could go all the way over to the female, which is really just undermining.
But
Just so
my-
that,
my-
wait, let me finish. So the problem I don't know how to address is, or I don't know how to address peacefully, is the fact that we're not allowed to talk about women this way. And we're not allowed to talk about the people who applied the female strategy this way. So we're forced in talking about it in male terms, which is Leninism, right? And which is a male projection of the female strategy, or Leninism, which is just Marxism, which is Abrahamism, which is the Abrahamic religions, or the new pseudo-scientific versions, which is Marxism, neo-Marxism, postmodernism, anti-male feminism, PC, woke, anti-whiteness, whatever. These are just female strategies applied. And so this goes into why I say the Constitution was evolved in that time period where we had amplified the ability of males to express their power economically. So it's largely an economic constraint, but the church had previously constrained what we consider moral behavior, which is social constructionism. And what happened is the church fell apart. We allowed the academy to take over the church's rule, and the church academy took over Marxism, neo-Marxism, etc., instead of Christianity, which had been Germanized over the centuries into being compatible with Arianism, or what we call aristocracy. So I don't view this as, like I said, I just see us all as bots.
I know. I want to push back a little bit on some of that narrative there. That was pretty good. The issue is the church fell apart. No, that's not exactly what happened, in my opinion. Is the church became less useful to the elite, and they sought to gain advantage by supporting other institutions instead, to their own advantage.
Well, if that were true, then the academy wouldn't have replaced the church, and it has.
Oh, they provided advantage to the elite.
Well, correct.
Correct. The church was no longer useful in that regard,
right?
As useful. So they created Jordan Hall talks about the cathedral, and it's like it's the replacement of the former church with the new cathedral, which is what the elites have done for their own advantage.
Yes.
Right. So that's a distinction between the church falling apart. The church fell apart because it was not maintained by the elite. It was
that's not, that's to offload the responsibility. The responsibility is the church failed to find a solution, as it had under Aquinas or under Augustine, to the change in circumstance. In other words, the change in the circumstance, and they failed to change, so that they continued to fulfill the role of the elite. And the question is why they failed. When Augustine was not that long, along in the process, and Aquinas was immediately in response to Aquinas. So in this situation, so why did no church thinkers emerge? And I suspect that the reason is that until Darwin and until the Industrial Revolution, it was still possible to maintain the church's set of original false promises. Whereas the Thomists had actually given the church the solution, which is to simply put science ahead of dogma, but that maintain the ethical principles within the science, which are just natural law. So they just needed to science those parts of religion that needed to be scienced, right? And they could have done it. Why did the church fail?
That's like a quantum question, man. It's like, why didn't the particle appear out of the quantum background?
Well, I mean,
Was it insufficient pressure?
That might be the case. In other words, or the pressure emerged so rapidly that here's what the answer is. It takes about 3 generations before you get a Beethoven. It takes 3 generations before you get a Maxwell or Einstein. So it happened so fast we didn't have 3 generations.
So it's like the force of the scientific revolution, the industrial revolution the advance was so rapid that it just swamped them, and they were unable to respond it's taken how many generations now? It's been 1850s, like about 6 generations now?
Well, Nietzsche tried, right? I mean, he saw it correctly.
He saw the threads coming bare,
Right. He
which is
saw
like,
it
that's the
correctly.
beginning. He saw the beginning of it, but he
Right. And so
didn't
we
see
had
the
the world
solution.
wars. We had the
Yes.
world wars that invalidated the culture before we had time to produce the third generation of Nietzsche's. And the opposite party was providing a solution for elites that was more advantageous.
Well, it's like the social fabric is falling apart, elites. And here's a solution that you will maintain your current position and gain advantage over it by allowing us to be the betas. And we will maintain the social matrix to your advantage.
It's actually a rotation of elites. They tried to get rid of the monarchies, and they
They
were
did
able
a
to.
pretty
Because
good
the
job of
church and
that.
the church and the monarchies were related,
Right.
and so they're trying to produce, the Jewish French model of authoritarian elites instead of via negative elites.
Where we still are. We're
This is
still
where we
stuck
still
in
are
there.
today.
They're attempting to impose this French model upon us now.
Yep.
Oh my. That was a distressing end of that little discourse.
Well, but it's just what happened. The thing is, it's really hard when you're in the middle of extraordinary change to see the pattern if you don't know the pattern of history. Part of the virtue of what we're working on here is that by showing it's the structure of evolutionary computation, that this is always what's going to happen. So you're always trying to say, how do we maintain the structure of evolutionary competition, despite the fact that humans don't want to do the work? I mean, we call that work responsibility, except that as civilization gets more complex, we have to divide responsibility the way we've divided labor. And nobody wants to, it's very hard for us to just to divide the responsibility because it's even less visible than the division of labor. So all we do is we're building this, and then we add women into the freaking voting pool, and women are like responsibility evasion machines. So, I mean, we wouldn't have had any of this happen if we hadn't let women vote. It would have never happened. It's women who voted it all in. And rapidly too, because they were pretty conservative against Marxism originally, because it only was targeted toward men. But as soon as they switched to race Marxism, right? It empowered and they got the pill. It empowered women. So women became the fucking second time became the venue for the destruction of civilization and the production of another dark age, because women don't want political responsibility.
Easier to organize along Leninist lines.
It's way easier to use the feminine, the motherly, right? Even if it's destructive, because it infantilizes. It's way easier.
It can't. They don't see it as destructive because it's only destructive over time.
Yes.
It's sufficiently constructive in time. And it's the man's fault when it goes sour later.
It's like,
those guys.
The thing is, you used to get responsibility so you could get a woman. I mean, that was the reason for it. The whole society was organized to produce men responsible enough to get a woman so that they could. So the problem is now is that you can get women and you don't need to be responsible for anything.
You don't get women.
Well, you don't get women.
You don't.
No,
you get a facsimile of a woman, which is like look, feel, but no, not real.
Yeah, you don't get the pairing off. So there's no reason to be. There's no reason to be responsible. So that's what men are doing. They're saying I'm not responsible because there's no reward for my responsibility. So they're checking out. I mean,
but no, it's interesting. There's now my this week I studied the manosphere again. The men are even the women are making note of it. It's like the men are not going to participate with this feminist nonsense, and the women are changing their behavior to adjust the dial down to the right.
Which is interesting because again, you guys were right and I was wrong. I mean, I can explain it once it's happened and I can predict a thing, but the rate at which normies adapt to things is just surprising.
Because it's like this, it's like everybody's sensitive, and it's like, oh, we're talking about their real interests are involved, real work, real interests, and it's like this isn't working out at all, and I'm not going anywhere near that. And it's like they work like a herd, and the herd is fast because the entirety of the body of the herd does not, like, think about a school of fish avoiding the predator fish. They all go and disappear from where the predator flies right through a hole in the cloud of fish, because all of them react to each other and not to the predator itself.
Yeah, I think the you hit on the issue, which is that it's not the herd isn't like, so men were system thinkers, so we divide the perception of time, and the herd doesn't.
They're dividing the
So we have a analog sensitivity, and they have a digital sensitivity.
yeah.
It's either everybody goes or nobody notices.
Nobody notices, or there's something bad happening.
We're all going, we're all running.
Like, whatever way we're going, we're all going to get away together, or all going to die together, right? So they're more sensitive in time than men are.
Men are sensitive across time, and women are sensitive in time. And it's actually a dip, because if you notice, men are more environmentally aware. So there's immediate crisis. For some reason, women freeze. I know the field of reasons why that could happen that have evolutionary value, which is basically don't get in the way. But men don't freeze. Right, the men do. It's a millisecond response time for a dad to rescue a child, and women just freeze. Why?
They can make more.
What?
They can crank out some more.
I actually think it's so they stay out of the way.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. If they get in the way and they can't make more.
Okay. So I may just say, that's the one thing that I can find an evolutionary path for, is just, and the men do the opposite, right? The fewer variables between us and the threat, the more computational energy we can focus on the threat. So, I mean, men's reaction time in response to that. But it goes down in the middle, where these women are aware of all this little nonsense between people, and, they're very sensitive to these. Well, men we don't even see it. It's nonsense, right? I mean, what we consider it as women's stuff or children's stuff, right? It's just what we call stupid or infantile, right? It's not adulting, but we just don't ignore it. And, I remember when Dear Abby, I remember I was 12, and Dear Abby was another Jewish lady pretending to be a white person, which I said, that's a compliment. So she went off there and wrote this thing. She's, well, men get a worldview, boys get a worldview before they get a social view. And I was like 12, so that would have been 1970, right? I mean, and I was like, God damn, that's actually what it is. And because that's how we see the worldview, we see the system view. We don't see the social or the interpersonal thing. And so you see that it's actually men are at the margins and women are in the middle. And if you look at the distribution of male and female traits, men are more widely distributed and women are more narrowly distributed. And it begins over time to make universe can't figure anything out. It can't think, right? It just has to try, and it has to try along a small number of axes, right? And response time is the axis. And that makes perfect sense, because the response time of the polity is long because it can absorb shocks, right? But the response time of children is short because they can't absorb shocks, right? And so, evolution is really fucking dumb, right? It picks a really simple algorithm, and in the case
parsimonious, but that's close enough.
Yeah, it does. In other words, the problem is figuring out those axes when you're a human, and you think it's all richly complex and sophisticated and nuanced, but
right.
Those are
not
just
as hard as you think it is.
It isn't really complicated underneath there. We're just dividing the labor of the cognitive labor of time and space. right? I mean, that's all that's happening. Computation. In other words, we divide the labor of evolutionary computation because you can't fucking think of everything. You can't be devoted to everything. And so the female and the male have to be different because the costs of reproduction and the costs of obtaining the costs of reproduction, in other words, for both sides, and the access to reproduction is quite expensive. So I mean, what's happening is underneath all this botware is actually pretty simple, but we keep telling ourselves lies that we can cheat evolution, and we can't.
Right. We keep telling ourselves lies.
Men externalize the real costs of being female, which is caring about the moment. In other words, we ignore it, and women ignore the real costs of politics, which is maintaining the group's evolutionary competitive ability against other groups, right? And I just think it's part of the natural ignorance that comes with having your brain focused on empathizing versus systematizing.
So I'm going to adjust that a little bit, because it's the interesting function in my ponderings this week is that women are more adaptable than men are.
Correct.
So women are
they're more socially adaptable than men.
Right. So it's like this. So they're less socially sensitive. Men are like more socially fixed. And so the women are adaptable to adjusting social circumstances to suit their momentary advantage.
Correct.
And the men are not. The men are like, no, they're rigid. They're much more rigid.
Why? Because we're the interface between reality and the women and the children, right? So their reality doesn't change.
Right. So we go back to this Babylonian model I was projecting earlier, which is that the matrix is flexible. It doesn't care who the dad is. And so it's like they bring in a new those guys are all had unethical sky gods that came in from the mountains and took over and killed all the old sky gods. the old weak one got subsumed by the new bronze carrier. And it's like, and the matrix remains the same. The matrix just does this a little bit, shakes a little bit, not much, but it has cohesion and integrity in time and over time persistence, because it doesn't care who the dad is. It's like, oh, it's a single mom now. Oh, now we got a new dad. Isn't that nice? And everybody just adjusts to the social order, which the priestly class tells us how it's supposed to be, because this is okay. This is just the sky gods just telling us we got a new one.
Well, this is why Semitic gods are authoritarian, despotic, and alien, and European gods are just members of the extended family who are dysfunctional.
Just rude dudes that are part of the
group. They're just like everybody else.
They're going to intrude. They're going to intrude, but you better be ready. Right,
but it's, again, they're not omniscient. They're not omnipotent. They evolve that way over time, but realistically, they're forces that man can overcome through wit. But they're not. So this is the master slave. I don't like the master slave dichotomy. It's really the primacy of man versus the primacy of gods. And so in the European tradition, it's the primacy of man. Gods are out there. You can get stuff from them like anybody else, right? Any other. They're as petulant and selfish as all the rest of us are. So they're just super versions of dysfunctional people like the rest of us.
Right.
But we can defeat them. In other words, we can outwit them. We can outcunning them. But you can't do this with Semitic gods. You're subservient to them. Now, this dichotomy is really helpful, but it only gets to be where you add how the Indian relationship is, because it starts out being like the European and sort of changes over time. And then you realize that the Chinese don't have one. They have like this idea of heaven, but it's more like nature. So we keep saying you have to have religion. Well, actually, no. You have to have the things that religions consist of.
Yep.
But with the Chinese, they don't believe in God, and they never really have. It's more like there's an order to the universe, right? That's beyond human
Natural order,
comprehension.
right?
And so that's sort of like uh, the weird example of hyper spirits that constitutes Hinduism. And then for Europeans, the gods are just, dysfunctional relatives that start fucking trouble all the time. Right? And thankfully you can call on your relatives for help, right? Because that's what Europeans did, is call on their relatives for help, right? And then you have the Semitic ones, which is I'm subject to the suppressive assholes that keep conquering us over and over again, right? And that's where you move from the original religion, which of course we're starting to uncover in Göbekli Tepe, which is the normal a normal, or what we consider as a natural religion, which is spirits, right? And you evolve from a religion of spirits gradually, in which the Jews have documented perfectly, into these authoritarians that in other words, instead of you're living under the incomprehensible nature of the natural world and the things you can't understand, till you're under your God is a proxy for the guys in charge, right? And so you eventually move from a natural religion into a religion of authoritarians.
Right. So I will point to this as this suggests to me that the beta males in the Mesopotamia essentially are wise guys. And what they did was they transformed the god.
Explain wise guys as you mean it.
Wise guys are guys that know too much and are savvy and manipulative. Yeah. That's like gangsters is what they call the gangsters back.
That's what I wanted you to get out, was the gangsters.
And so it goes like this: they remind me of the it would be the Gnostics, as told to me by David Livingstone of Montreal. He says the Gnostic story will be something like this: the true God is the unethical God, sent the good God in order to enslave the people with morality. And so yes, the word of God, which is the good God, sent by the true God, which is the unethical God, that actually is the authoritarian God, that is the one in charge that we are sent to actually serve. That's the issue, is they're wise guys. And it's just a wise guy story to project wise guy reality upon naive populations.
Correct. So
that's my impression of it.
So let's continue it and say a wise guy survives by creating a protection racket.
Yes.
And what does a priesthood do? It creates a protection racket.
Right. So I protect you from the natural forces. Whether or not I actually do is irrelevant. And
I actually do protect you from the monarchy by making you obey them.
Right. Since if you obey them, you won't get hurt.
Right.
And you'll be able to pay your taxes like all good people will.
Yes, and right, and I will get my tithes. So right now the problem is that interferes with if you have gangsters, why can't you produce a government? That's the whole point.
Interesting premise right there. It's like, well, because it's like it's a government because the problem is I have to tell lies. And the lies go rancid after every couple generations. So you need a replacement government every 4 generations, which is why we happen to have this cyclicality, because it takes 4 generations, because the people of the 5th generation are dead now, and they don't remember. The people that have no living memory of we did this before. This is like last time.
Because living memory was historically the way something's provided. So you just take one of like I always said, the value of metaphysics is you don't know it. The value of myth is that faith is it's inarguable and it's plastic. So the general strategy inside of faith retains constant over time, but the excuses you tell to justify it, which is where Pilpul comes from, it just continues. And so in the way you defend lies is through critique, not through opposition. So that's why they have pill, pull, and critique. They don't have
Rational argumentation.
rational argumentation and evidence. They don't have evidence and argument. In other words, positive persuasion. They have basically sophistry and undermining, is because they have to keep reforming the set of lies in order to maintain the gangsters that we call priests or rabbis or mullahs or whatever the hell it is, so that the order can be maintained between these hostile imperial enemies in a tribal society that needs very local control because there's no trust. What did the Europeans and the Chinese do differently? They started with a military of homogenous people and built a state. Right now, the Europeans happen to do a better job of building a state for stupid ancestral reasons, and so we got rational philosophy and law because we had no concept of authority among all these warriors. Whereas the Chinese, they were able to mass into armies because of the rivers, pay for rivers, so they could tax, they could create authoritarianism. So they didn't need law; they needed only command. But so, I mean, now we have the three axes of.
Wait. I want to illustrate that a little bit more thoroughly. With the law is based upon cooperation of
Voluntary
equals.
Yes.
Reciprocity.
Mm-hmm.
And the command is based upon, I've got all the forces and you're going to obey, or bad things are going to happen to you. So pay your taxes.
Yeah, but it's not like the military, these were their own people. Right. So it's not like the military isn't trying, it's not like the Middle East, right? Where you have the intersection of 4 continents and some, the crazy fucks in the mountains, the river, and you have like a nightmare there, right? It's really easy to organize Europeans and Chinese comparatively.
Right.
It was a little harder for the Hindus, right? The Indians. And it was way harder for the Middle Easterners, and for geographic reasons, it was freaking impossible for the Africans. So, I mean, we can see the whole spectrum of evolutionary adaptation by simple incentives. Right? So the Chinese, that it's like you're going to go along with this guy not just because he's threatening you, but because he's actually protecting your land. Right, and
there's just no reason to fight it.
There's no reason to fight him, right?
Okay. Someone else is going to do that job if he doesn't.
Right, and the bad guys that come over the mountains or the deserts,
they're bad.
The bad guys, the Chinese have to deal with them all the time, but they don't have to deal with them as neighbors. Like they're not the tribe next door.
No, they only come in on occasion, like a bad.
They only come in on occasion, and they try to take over, and then they get absorbed by what we call Chinese culture, which is really Chinese culture is their means of warfare. Because they built this system, this bureaucracy, and if you want to, it's pretty useful. So if you want to integrate, you want to work with it, you'll eventually be absorbed by it. So they'll do what they're doing with the Uyghurs now is they'll actually say, okay, well, we need this, especially toward the south. We need some of this land in the south. Let's just go indoctrinate these people into being Han. Right? They're not Han. They're completely different ethnicity, but they will think they're Han after 3 or 4 generations. And the Chinese are just like that. So that's why they have this really slow, methodical means of creating propaganda and not creating conflict, is to absorb you like the Borg without conflict. Europeans, though, our thing is we're small in number. We're built on a fragile alliance of semi-related ethnic kin, and so we're entrepreneurial warfares. So there's no way to form alliances over long periods of time. So we have to solve problems quickly and violently. And so that's how Europeans maintain the OODA loop, which is we just have to be hyper adaptable, right? But it's also why the Chinese can expand and colonize and we can't, because other people can't do it, because you have to have that military and ethnicity and culture and rule of law first before, right, in order to make it happen. Well, we can't
have it first if
You can't
you're already
unless you
there.
made it. You have to go through the steps of making it. So it's really hard to produce a high trust European federation of ethnicities. And we did it through our original fact that we were ethnicities, right? Ethnic relations. And we did it secondly, because the church created a vehicle for making excuse for it. So the church didn't serve the same process it did in the Middle East, which is why it was overthrown by Islam, because the Middle East was originally succeeding at becoming Christian.
Overthrown, I would say superseded.
Superseded by, right? Whereas in the West, we didn't need all that nonsense. We just needed an excuse to continue Arianism. And I know Christians don't like that very much, but I mean, Christianity was an excellent excuse for Arianism. The problem is it doesn't work. You can't colonize other people with the European tradition, whether it's genetic, whether it's cultural, whatever, whether it's a weakness in our method. Other people can take our technologies, but they can't develop the institutions, probably because they're not able, for some reason, to start out as a homogenous military with duty to one another over self. They're probably not able to
no,
do
it goes to behavioral economics, I think. They've already got established.
They've already got it,
order,
right?
and I'm not going to learn the new system. There's no new way. There's no new way because it's too expensive. I'm not going to even try.
Yeah,
and there's no
think that's
reason
right.
to do it.
I agree. There's
they can't imagine a reason to do it because they can't, because it's like you can't put yourself outside your intuition, really, honestly, can you?
No, especially when you're talking about, when you start moving down in the average IQ down in the 90s or 80s, you're not going to get there because those people are extremely dependent upon habit and intuition. And you can't, it's not like the European aristocracy where you're talking about some fancy folk, right, that are selecting for every positive human trait possible, right? It's just not going to happen. So anyway, I think we just explained human history there again a little more, but starting with your story, I thought that was a nice way
It made me laugh when I thought of it. I was like, this is just silly because it's so plain, it's simple.
Well, making it silly is making it fun.
Right.
It's one thing for me to sit here and talk about, well, this is the dimensions which cause us to cause these causality over time. And here, let me tell you this hour-and-a-half long story of how these interdimensions relay against one another and create a deterministic outcome that we can't vary from. Right? I mean, it's much harder to do what I just did, what I do, than the way you created a bit of humor for it. The great thing about it is if you create the humor, you can go take it all the way down to first causes.
That's right.
Right. And so, but the hard thing is to create an empathic, which is what you did with humor, an empathic narrative that you're entertained by and can be held, your attention can be held by, and then you can gradually improve the granularity, precision, and parsimony of. And it's a lot easier for humans to learn that than it is for some idiot to come along and say, what the hell is Doolittle talking about? Listen to me for.
It's hard, man.
It's
that's
really
the
hard.
hard road. The hard road
That's just
starts with
hard.
the fines. It's like, no, you start with the course and go to the fines.
Yes, but
That's
I don't.
the right
But, and the problem is, of course, I see the world as grains of sand.
I know that's my issue. Is like I get it, and so I have to redirect your attention. It's just you. That's okay.
But I like your humorous narrative. It's true, and I like that you created enough of a seed for me to build on to comparative civilizations. Now I could just get back to it's all women's fault. I thought I was gonna. I just wanted to see if I get a laugh out of you.
I'm working on my thing because I'm working on these dimensions. I've got this graph set going on because it's like this. I figured out. I'm tying my mythical alchemical history into the triangle system: men's social organization, women, men political organization,
Correct.
Women's social organization in a cooperative matrix.
Correct.
And so
that's all the nature has to work with.
I'm drawing dimensions here, so you can see the development of it in time.
Yes.
which is funny because the women just stretch. They don't care. They'll go as far as the men go, and only that far.
I don't get that.
Because the women are reactive. They're not
Correct.
they're not active. So they just react. And when the men go this way, they equal the direction from the origin.
Correct.
They go the same the amount.
Right. And so cooperation, right?
So it's
The energy
cooperation
capture-
gets to increase.
Correct.
And there's
And if-
a commercial function there that is definable, which that's hard. And that's because it's like alchemy doesn't talk about different kinds of.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see. I didn't. So I was just trying to say, well, the triangle makes sense because the amplitude of the triangle is just the degree of cooperation between the two extremes, right?
See, the alchemical part goes like this. It goes developmentally between. I'll show it to you because it's just.
This is
You'll
one of those
like
things.
it. You will like it because it's mytho-alchemical history, and it shows within this triangular system, and with the commerce involved. And
I have learned over time that my extreme logical allergy to all of this, philosophy, ideology, theology, alchemy, whatever. I've learned over time that I have to let you go with this stuff because sometimes really good things come out of it.
It's crazy.
But it's like
I know.
I feel it's like I need a straight jacket and a ball gag in order to control myself while you're talking.
I don't like this image. I don't like this image at all.
That was the idea.
And more, how about just more coffee?
No, because it's like I can't stand it. Make the man stop.
Make him stop. Oh my.
My inner autist is running around screaming, holding its head, saying, my head's gonna explode.
It is. Your head's gonna explode. It's like the pressure is increasing.
Oh God! But the
But
thing
see,
is,
here's the issue: is the pressure will increase in your head until the light will fix it into some form, and you'll go aha, and the grains will fall into place.
If you solve a problem of helping people understand what I'm talking about, then I can appreciate that.
There you
But
go.
the process of enduring that
Ugly. The sausage making is ugly. I got to agree. Right, so we got to talk to Martin because he's supposed to talking about editing these videos into some more manageable chunks.
Well, I think most of it is just there's two basic problems, right, with editing this down, right? One is that whenever we start a topic, we start with a theme, or like during a conversation, we'll start with one theme or two themes or three themes, whatever, and then we weave them together. So there's the easy part is this clip gets a concept across.
Yes.
This clip gets a concept across. This 3 clips out of this whole thing gets a concept across. But the problem is you don't really see how the clips fit together because the parts you cut out,
yes,
right? It's easy to cut out the stuff we're screwing around, right? I mean, we're just taking a break and playing with each other, that's fine. But then there's the problem is that there's the fact that we're weaving this stuff together just by talking about it in proximity sometimes.
Yes.
That's hard. So my view is, okay, fine. Well, just have the clips and the long form.
That's right.
And the clips can go in. And so that's
they
what
point to the long form.
And just point to the long form.
Yeah.
Right. And that's fine. And a lot of this stuff is, one of the things I was hoping that somebody would do was they'd say cover the themes. In other words, there's a fixed number of themes that we talk about, right? Broader narratives, right? Like we just covered group differences and group evolutionary strategies and their history. And I tied it back into my concern with our failure to suppress the female mean of antisocial behavior, criminality, basically, during the formation of the country, right? When we did it, because women hadn't yet been able to exercise their criminality on the scale that with verbal abuse, the way men had been able to exercise their criminality with commercial abuse, right? And so it makes sense that what we're trying to, in other words, I just wanted to tie that back together. Okay, fine, but you don't have, there's these clips there that are fine. So I was hoping you could say, well, this continues theme 1, 2, 4. This continues, this continues 3, 1. So if he's going through and you see these themes, then what happens is we can reference all these clips and discussions across themes.
Yes.
And I think that's where you start to get,
High value.
oh, I see what these guys are doing.
Yeah, yeah.
I see what they're doing. These themes reflect the book, which reflects, right? And so I think that if we could get, you get the clips, right? You get the longer pieces, right? And within the clips and longer pieces, we say this is part of this theme or this concept, right? And then we have an index to themes that goes over and says these clips address this theme. All of a sudden, we can sort of start making playlists about a theme. And what they'll do is they'll see, well, why is Kurt always telling this story from a slightly different
wait.
angle?
How come we're talking about triangles again? What the hell?
Yes, right, exactly. You know, and they'll like to say, I see what's going on. We can help them see the big picture, because when we talk about this stuff, I mean, we start out with fucking subatomic physics, right? And we go up to these triangles, and then we get up into evolutionary differences and sex differences in cognition. And then we say, well, that expresses a metaphysics, a group strategy, a dialogue, a means of argument, or whatever. And this plays out over time in these civilizations. And there's no civilizations that survived that did anything different, because these are the only ones that can survive the evolutionary competition between group strategies, metaphysics, means of argument, whatever. Right? So how do you expect people to understand all that shit?
Wait. And who is the Red Queen anyway?
Exactly. I mean, I totally get why it's so incomprehensible to people.
Silly.
Right?
Well, that's because this is why I say Kurt's interested in too much. It's like only all of potential human experience.
Yeah,
well, subatomic to the astrophysical. It's like, okay, what? That's only anything that you could talk about.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and he says, well, a lawyer. I said, well, technically I'm a philosopher, but you know, I'm a philosopher who does theory instead of philosophy. And it's like, well, what do you specialize in? And that's an excellent question. It's called everything. It used to be truth, now it's decidability. Decidability ends up in law. So technically science, economics, decidability, science, ethics, and law. So that's my sort of thing, and that means absolutely nothing to anyone at all in the world.
What?
But the problem
sorry,
is,
I got a thing to go to.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, so it's the opposite. I've got a friend who specializes in audio, right? Audio neurology, right? He studied his whole life studying chickens, well, because they're cheap, right? And they're dumb, and their nervous system is easily plungeable, right? I mean, you can get in there and observe it, right? And so I love this guy, by the way. His name is Lippy. He lives in Washington State. I just haven't talked to him in a long time. But anyway, he's God.
That was a shout out. Shout out.
I'm just complimenting somebody is a sort of a friend and I respect. They're a proper nerdy academic Jewish couple, from a long history of proper nerdy Jewish intellectual people who live in nice houses and raise good families. And I just love this guy, right? And he's a nerd, right? So anyway, it's like if you want to talk to him about audio, right? The
vocalization.
Or no, it's actually just chickens hearing. I mean, when you ask that question, the person's going to go, I really don't care about how chickens hear. That's not going to, and especially when you talk about neurology, right? If you're talking about really low level chemical processing and this kind of stuff. Right? I got the other side of the problem, which is, well, I have to know the basic foundations of every single discipline known to man.
So what is it about the chicken hearing that I need to know? Please, let's have it. Quit playing games with me, you tease.
Well, it's the problem of extremes, right? As I have to know everything, right? Which is right, and he has to know everything about a thing.
Yep.
Right, and I don't have to know everything about any of those things. I have to know the first principles that limit what can be done with those things, right? So it's like, okay, well, it's just, it's fucking nerd. What do you call it? It's first world nerd problems, right? But you can't tell people what you're doing. So what I just say is I work in legal theory,
Sure.
And that's like, okay, I don't want to talk to you. That solves the problem.
That means you're on base.
Right?
You're outside this. You're outside the.
There's
brother.
nothing I want to talk to you about because it's not fun. I don't care. It's probably contentious. And so I just say I work in legal theory.
I had a patient who was a gangster. Okay, he was a true anarchist, motorcycle gangster, and he had more swastikas tattooed to his arms than the Luftwaffe had. And he would show them when he wanted nobody to talk to him. That's you saying that you're a legal scholar.
But you talk to those guys. You know what I find out? They're actually adorable.
Oh yeah.
This straight.
Well, it was funny because I said, I was telling him because he was a good guy. And I said, I was thinking about leading a life of crime. Then I was afraid I'd run into guys like you. And he goes, you're okay with guys like me as long as you do what you say you're going to do. He goes, you just don't cross us. You don't promise something and fail to deliver it, because his job, he was the collector.
Mm-hmm.
They called him the cable man because he carried a chunk of cable around with him. It's like he wasn't going to connect them. He's going to connect it to you.
It's like a great story. Of course, when I was in college, I ran an art supply store, right? A big one, right? And there was a guy, one of those guys that comes in, right? And he comes to my art supply store, and I'm like, "What the? We're talking about the kind of place where high overeducated, self-impressed white people go, right? All right, right. This is the kind of place, right? You're trying to show that you're raising above your middle class standards. All right, so I'm looking at this guy, and he's got the whole swastikas thing, the ball head.
Yeah,
he's the fucking chef at the steakhouse, which is one of the most prestigious restaurants in town. He's a chef there, right? Right. And you know what he does in his spare time and while he's in there? He paints landscape watercolors.
Nice.
So I get to know this guy over my college career, and he's a fucking sweetheart.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, nah, this is just how this is his friends, right? He's showing his uniform to his friends. And he probably, like everybody else, they had a lot of background that was bad, but he eventually grew up and he figured out life.
That's right.
Whatever. I love that fucking guy. It's actually those man groups, if they're not commercially criminal, like there's like some of these motorcycle gangs, they're commercial organizations that sell drugs, right? Your interests are not purely social anymore.
Yeah.
But any of those subcultures, I mean, I don't care. I'm going to go to the other extreme, like the goth subculture. I always bring up the Grateful Dead subculture because I thought they were adorable, right? I mean, I'm an effete, blue-blooded New England snob, right? I fucking love those people because it's all about
community. It's community.
It's about community, and most of them are. So what I haven't liked over my lifetime is we've gone from the culture of community by celebration of some aesthetic to the cult of complaint by celebrating hostility. And so all these cults that have arisen now, there's all this activism is fucking evil.
Oh yes.
And it really bothers me because it used to, you go back to the greasers era, right? Or the hippie era. You go, the flower child stuff. All those subcultures underneath that military aristocracy,
yes,
they're beautiful. But the minute they killed the military aristocracy and they started fostering these cults of discontent, which we think of as BLM and whatever, right? Those things have turned into identities that are power rather than joy.
That's the empire state. Too many elites. And so this is Mr. Putin came out this week and said it. He's like, you're going to get a new elite. Your elites are going to be replaced in the West. He said it because it's like you're going to get yours done, because we made like, this is what we saw this week, is like the Russian economy is stronger since they got sanctioned.
That's not true.
That's the claim. I don't know if it's true or not. That's the claim. And they made their own G8. And
Russia has a $1 trillion economy.
I understand.
Right?
No, I understand.
Here's what's happened. They have enough reserves, right, to float the ruble, right? And they've found enough ways of getting around the oil sanctions to maintain reasonable income. And they've only had to shut down some of their processing facilities, right? But they've done it at a $30 discount per barrel of oil. All right. So, the problem with these things is sanctions take 3 to 4 years to begin to play out, because I always talk about this with you. What's the forgetting curve? What's the reorganization curve for people? It's on the order of 3 to 4 years before you stop thinking about the norms and behaviors that you habituated over the previous 3 years, and you adjust to the normal behaviors. It's when that happens, and all what we call the what's his name so artfully called the sustainable patterns of network and trade are no longer able to take advantage of the stored capital in the previous ones, and must live on the present ones, because the past ones were predicting a return to the past model.
Right, normalcy.
You're having to predict from the present model. So your risk profile changes gradually over a 3 to 4 year period. I wish I would need some, if I could have some economists here, they would turn this into a little more precise language, but they won't do it the way I just did, which is neural economy.
Right.
Right. And so what happens is that this plays out. So if you look, what did the sanctions do to Iran? It was catastrophic. Did it force a regime change? No, not yet. But all right, it really put a cost on that. And the cost it puts on people is power projection.
What does that mean?
So it becomes very hard to fund the military, maintain the peace of your people and whatever. So you have to turn yourself an increasingly not so nice government in order to
Oh, right. You have to increase the amount of force being employed upon the population.
Right. So now the problem with Russia is that, of course, he's not always wrong, what Putin says. He's just high, right? I mean, the fact that he thinks a $1 trillion economy can achieve these objectives. He is also wrong to think that he can actually fight a war with Europe. He knows all this stuff. Who's the audience for this bullshit he's talking about? It's the domestic audience. He's trying to maintain power. Why? Because if he loses power, they're going to fucking kill him.
There you have it.
Right? That's all that's going on. He started getting old. He worried about his age. Right? And so he's going to burn a whole country in order to protect himself. That's all that's going on. His health and his allies. And what's the difference between Russia and China and the mullahs in Iran and the developed world? Is that they are gangsters, as we just talked about priests being gangsters. They're gangsters who are telling people comforting stories so they can extract unearned proceeds over the people and build things like all these yachts that we keep seizing around the world, right? And all these offshore bank accounts.
I will have to say this. It's like contrary to the rule of law. I will have to throw that in there. What has occurred here is really the West has overturned their rule of law with regard to this, and it's very disturbing. We've used the financial system as a weapon, and now that's disturbing too, because it's not rule of law; it's something else. And so it is gangsterism too, and it is to be abhorred.
Well, you got it right. I mean, I loved it when you started going there earlier in this conversation, because I'm like, okay, he just gave me an opening that's beautiful, right? And so it's really, do you want to be run as by a mob, or do you want to be run by a corporation, which is what we have, or do you run by a family, which is what the monarchies have? Now, of those three things, I would argue that the best is the merger of the first two, which is you want a family that owns a corporation called the state, who gives dividends to its family members, the people, or do you want to be a gangster that, like the Russians and the Chinese, that extracts everything it can from the people through corruption, and that money doesn't go to work in Russia or China. It gets taken out of Russia and China so that it's put to work in Europe. And so that's why European banks don't want to play this game with Russians, is because Russian corruption is an industry. It's the biggest industry in Europe, right? Understand, Russian corruption is the biggest industry in Europe. So what is a government? It's a business, right? I mean, you can either make money for your shareholders, or you can extract money for the owners, the managers, or something in between. Well, the Russians just take all that money and they put it into Europe and I mean, we have all this documented. It's not whatever. But I mean, just think about it. You have a country with only $1 trillion in an economy. And how many yachts worth hundreds of millions to billions are there? Well, the yachts are just an extreme. They're not like a one-off. For every yacht, there's billions more that are taken out of.
That's right. That's the surface of the iceberg.
Right. That's just the visible thing, right? Whereas if you were a proper, I'm going to make funny, but if you were a proper Jew, you would never let that money get so visible that people would say, there's
something going on under the surface.
There's something going on here. You would say, well, that's all pride. That's white. We don't do that. That would be prideful, right? You make your money.
Wait. So that's because it's against our group evolutionary strategy, which is to maintain the appearances of beta.
Right, exactly.
So you don't act like the alpha. Are you out of your damn mind? Because ready for this, is an allegory. You know what they call a brave rabbit?
What?
Extinct. It's like, no, dude, you're a prey animal. Don't be. What are you thinking, brave?
I don't know if you know this, but there used to be very large rabbits here in the United States. You're from Virginia, is that right?
Yeah.
Right. So that was one of the places we had these jackrabbits. The problem with the jackrabbit is it runs for a while, it stops and looks. What happens when you have people who come along and they have guns? They just wait till you stop.
He's gonna
so
look.
Why are the rabbits gone? Because they stopped.
I had to check. It's an OCD rabbit. He has to stop and check.
I caught rabbits as a kid with my hands.
Wow.
As a kid in the woods.
Wow.
It's not that hard if they're not big. If they're young, you can catch them.
Yeah.
They make a lot of noise, by the way. They scream.
Yeah.
But they don't stop. They just won't stop. All right. And they are crazy fast.
Mm-hmm.
The way you get them, of course, is they get into the brush and they can't figure out where you are. But anyway, back in the woods in Connecticut, we had these little rabbits. Anyway, my grandfather used to own all this land near the lake, and so
nice.
So those rabbits. But anyway, yeah, you're right, because the jackrabbits are gone because they stopped and looked.
Too brave.
Too brave.
Oops. Weed them out of the gene pool.
Well, I mean, I can't remember the platypus story. Anyway, how do we get there? We were talking about, okay, so Russia, I don't know, because if you take $1 billion economy and you focus all that $1 billion economy on war and nothing else, and you are willing to burn the population the way Russians are willing to burn population, you go up against a group of people, Europeans, who aren't willing to burn large numbers of dead, who won't even use artillery warfare like the Russians do, because we consider it immoral. Because artillery warfare they basically destroy everything and then just walk over the destroyed territory. It's not like, so under aristocracies, we didn't want to do that. You want to conquer the opposing military and their leadership and then take over the
Take the
agrarian,
stuff.
and then take the stuff and tax it, right? You don't want to have, you really don't want to kill the citizens, which of course, anyway, that's just a general principle. But the Russians don't do that. They just have Mongol strategy, which is burn everything to the ground and we'll repopulate it later. So anyway, I don't know how a $1 trillion economy led by a guy who's absolutely fucking crazy, and the only reason they exist today is they have nuclear weapons that are from the 80s or 70s. That's the only reason they're there. And I can't even imagine they can maintain them, because they certainly can't maintain their other equipment. So I don't know how the hell, and they're stealing everything that isn't nailed down. Every dollar they try to put in the military apparently is getting taken by the generals, the way it's being taken. I mean, China, you see all these guys, they get to some Chinese bureaucrat's house, and it's literally the walls are full of money. I don't know if you've seen any of those videos, but it's hysterical. I mean, and he's had to purge millions of these guys.
Just watch the show, brother.
It's just amazing.
Watch the show. It's just an interesting show, and it's like there's smoke and mirrors everywhere.
So I don't claim that Russia or China can't do things. I'm saying, well, you need to have inputs, never to produce outputs, and I don't see the inputs. I just don't see them. I mean, all the thing you can do is make Europeans pay more for stuff. Right. Which it's not like we can't afford to pay more for stuff, because we waste so much of our fucking money anyway. So what's
just something like this?
I just don't understand, so I don't know. I'm trying to be colloquial in my speech here to address the audience, but I mean, if we get very specific about it, it's just, I mean, I've seen our guys say we would wipe out the Russian army within 5 days. That's the problem. We would wipe them out in 5 days. So what do they have left? Nuclear weapons. So we don't want to wipe them out in 5 days. We have to make them give up with their conventional weapons. That's all that's going on. So, I mean, that's the game. So it's just what we do is what we always do. We put you under economic hardship until your people get fucking tired of you.
It seems like that is like there's this the reflecting back here as well, and it's like the what they're calling the Putin inflation and the Putin gas tax, et cetera, et cetera. It's reflecting back, and it's working towards regime change locally.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we're conducting a war.
I know. I regard the Chinese as engaging with war with the United States as well.
Sure.
And you close Shanghai, you say COVID, and it disrupts the supply lines to a degree that is unprecedented. And you see what happens in the United States because you don't like the regime.
But again, this is all working for our benefit. We can't, because of how our democracy, in other words, our female-led economy, our female political system and our male economy, we can't do things without certain incentives. So right now we're reindustrializing, repatriating industry faster than ever, right? And so we're bringing all that stuff home, which is why China's out there complaining, saying you can't do that, because you'll never be. Absolutely we can. It's really easy, actually. So it's like, well, you can't build a specialty metals. I'm like, absolutely we can. They're not like, you don't find those special metals like by digging them up on the ground. They're byproducts. Those metals are byproducts of processing other metals.
Yeah.
Right. And so we absolutely can.
Yeah, I saw that. They made a threat this week on the subject matter. They're like, oh, World War III, because World War III. And it's like, okay, we'll see. That sounds like just talk. Yeah.
So the problem that we have is that our government doesn't have any credibility. So it's impossible for the government to counter anything they say. So what we do is our government ignores them and lets the public sector do the work. The problem is our public sector gets joy out of first dramatizing whatever these threats are, media, right? And that which accomplishes, of course, our goal of accelerating repatriation of everything, right? And then eventually you get some talking head out there once the cacophony's educated the population of this problem, the talking heads who actually know what they're talking about come out and say, well, that's not going to happen because this and this and this and this. And by then the public is exhausted by the dramatic and actually listens to the facts. And so then there's people who are aware of facts actually gradually dispense this information down through the filters, right? Until you have the idiots who still believe the nonsense and can't be convinced otherwise, but they don't matter because they're uninfluential. I don't know. It would be really nice if our government had to tell the truth.
Therefore, we must complete our book.
I felt that, brother. I felt that.
That's the right answer.
I was thinking I need another couple of days for this.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm back on Lion. We can go back to Lion.
Yeah, we go back to Lion again.
Go back to Lion and finish up Lion, and then we got to start doing really hard work, which is chapter by chapter.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
I just don't know if the audience is going to be okay with it.
It doesn't matter. It'll be all right. We'll throw in some cheap laughs in between once in a while just to keep them running. It's all good. They're going to need it because it's going to be a rough year, man. The year is going to be rough because it's just going to keep getting crazier and crazier because the liars are lying with a faster rate because the lies have a half-life that is exceedingly shortening.
Is it more important to produce what people can act on, which is the Constitution and the policies, or is it more important to produce the book? Oh, in other words, justify.
So this is kind of where I'm at. I'm like, to me, to distill it down to that is which is absolutely essential.
That's just the Constitution. In other words,
it's necessary to have a foundational element, which is what is it about and why do we have it and why do we have this problem and how do we resolve this problem and what is this thing that we're going to put on top, the superstructure, Constitution, policies on top. That's the essential bit. What is the essential foundation that is necessary for them to understand why I should even pay attention to the superstructure? That's the question.
Okay, so again, I started out with the logics, right? So I started out with language and I built up from there. And then we went into first principles and we finished first principles. Then we get into group strategies, which explains where we are today. So, right. And then we got into the problem, which is the failure to suppress.
Right.
Right. And then we fixed the problem, which is the law and the Constitution, because so the thing is that's a journey, right? That's a big journey.
It is.
Can that be summarized?
That's a question that I will allow to remain open. I say it can be, but that's just my presumption.
It may be that the chapters to describe these functions, or the sections within a chapter that describes each of these functions, is fairly small. I think my problem has been that in the past I've believed that you have to get a story to explain each of these. In other words, how do I say this? Creating examples is a pain in the ass. Right, and so if I just state the logic, right, and how it's constructed, it's not so bad. But if I have to start giving example after example, which is what most popular science books do, is they take a simple concept and they just give you a lot of examples. And people seem to be able to grasp the examples. if
Like
I,
analog learning.
right. And so I actually think that's, at least to me, that's the time sink, because that's the thing I'm frustrated with. I get frustrated with,
Do the part that's not frustrating first, Ben.
and see if that's enough.
And you make a skeleton and then flesh it out as much as
Well, I
necessary.
mean, there's a lot of this written, right? I
Right.
mean, and what's happened is that over time, a lot of the stories that I'd originally told turned into just statements of fact. So it got simpler, over time. So I don't know, maybe, the problem is I've got all the slides for the courseware. That's the outline of the book, right? And I've got the book as it's written. And then I've got all this material that is back there. And I got the previous drafts of the book, right? So what I've got now is what should complete a first draft, which is this particular story. And that story is what we've been working on for a year. Is Dr. Brad trying to help me convert this from being overwhelming
It's overwhelming.
to a story. And I think the story is possible with a finite number of overarching stories. In other words, the story of language and grammars, right? The story of truth, decidability, truth, reciprocity, and right. The story of the first principles of the universe and the first principles of cooperation. The story of the group evolutionary strategies demonstrating this,
Right.
and the story of the story of what went wrong and how to fix it. Right, those are the basic, what do you call it? That's the books within the books, or the sections within the book, or whatever. And I think if we start each story out, I mean, you could actually go through it and read just that first introduction for each of those sections, if you wanted to, and you'd get it.
There you go.
I think that would be a way to read the book. And then what most people need, I mean, even reading the Constitution, which is some guys have gone through again, and they say, well, you haven't updated this since 2020. And I'm like, no, I haven't, because I have run into the problem of how to tell this fucking story since 2020. That's been the primary issue, is that I realized how complicated this is, and that because it's fun and interesting details for me, doesn't mean it's accessible for the readers who need to understand it.
Right.
So so I want to create a story that's, I want to tell this, because when you write, like I've written a couple chapters, they're so fucking good, right? I know that a person can understand this, right? And then I get to some other subjects where I'm like, oh my God, I mean, it's neurology, right? I mean, you know, you know about consciousness. The problem is you get stuck with, I have to falsify all these idiotic, superstitious philosopher morons out there who created all this bullshit, right? And it's like, okay, I can't simplify that narrative, because I'm in the problem of, I have to overcome all their bullshit. I don't have to simply describe something that people didn't formerly know. Like if I describe the grammars, nobody knew, or truth, decidability, nobody knew that before, right? So I don't have to overcome anything. And once you read it, it's like, okay. But then you get to consciousness, people have all these invested, it's basically a religious,
that's right,
sort of problem. And I'm like, well, how do I solve that problem, right? Do I just say, fuck it? I mean, I'll leave that argument for later and tell people you're going to.
No, it's like this. It's like I don't think it's time to. It's necessary to unwind, because it's like that's cleanup operation.
Yeah.
Because
so save the cleanup for later.
It's just a distractor.
Yeah.
You just encapsulate. You wall them off and you bypass them and get to the objective.
Okay. And then
it's siege warfare. You just leave a little group around the outside to keep them in and go.
And then, I love the triangles because it's a good model, except that what I keep encountering with people who get in the triangles is they try to do fitting, which is they try to take what they already know and make it fit the triangle instead of say, here's a triangle. How do you revise what you know so that it fits the triangle in the first principles? Right? I mean, and this is what happens. I mean, it happens every day. Somebody say, well, what about this? No, you got to build from the cognitive difference between males and females up to that particular situation. And so what you think of as one of these axes isn't, it's just some point in here, right? Or it's completely irrelevant. So we have that one. So there's a bunch of things that I've just seen that people do stupid shit with that, I mean, okay, well, how do I overcome this particular problem? And so in other words, what I'm trying to get at is I'm saying, I believe it's possible to tell this as a narrative, right? As a narrative with just as thoroughly as I've explained, like decidability and testimony and performative whatever. I don't know how much definition I have to do when defining terms, right? But then there's some things to get to, like consciousness, where it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to tell you what's really going on here, and
that's how I see it, because it's like consciousness is this just morass.
Yep, it's actually really simple. They just can't imagine it.
Well, that's the opposite of what it is. They can imagine anything they want, and they just go into it ad nauseum. And so it's like you're falling into just the morass. You're gonna get lost in there, guys. There's nothing there. It's just talking about nothing.
Yep.
And that's so it's like you don't have an argument with a guy doing this. It's like having a chat with a guy who's talking to himself, and you're gonna argue with him. But he's having a schizophrenic break, and he's talking to himself faster than you can talk to him. Says there's no arguing with this guy. He's just not worth talking to right now. So you talk to the ones that can continue to be conversant, because it's like the ones that are distracted by nonsense are going to be distracted by nonsense. So you cannot afford to write down the arguments about why he shouldn't be distracted by nonsense, because he can't hear you.
Okay, so we address it we try to find a Brad style answer, right? A narrative that explains it. And then, the only problems we are left with is the unpleasantness of that we haven't suppressed the female method of antisocial behavior in our law as thorough as we had in the common law before the expression of the common law as constitution and statute. And so if we suppress the female means of lying, which both men and women make use of, then we fix the problem, which is why we should demonstrate there are only really 8 holes in the Constitution.
Right.
And a few changes that need to be made in the law. And we show that, holy crap, our law of this United States is really close to social science, which explains our rate of adaptivity.
Right. So it's interesting because it is the crystallization of the common law into the United States Constitution as originally enshrined in the 1880s.
1780s.
Excuse me. So yes, pardon me. 1780s. I was getting hung up on the decade. I got the century thing,
I knew what you were doing.
So the issue was when it became crystallized in its form, there was a presumption which was failed to be manifested and considered as a possibility at the time, which led to the 8 holes.
Correct.
And it was because they couldn't imagine that you're not going to have your women under control. Good Lord. Honestly, gentlemen, really? They never even imagined that such a possibility would exist. And so
they couldn't imagine that. They knew the church was necessary, right?
Right.
And they couldn't
Failure
imagine
of the church was
yes.
outside the scope of imagination. So they didn't plan for it. And that's all. And so now here it is. We're now 200 years later, and it's like clearly there's an error here, and here's the error set. And then
It's actually a really simple error. It just has profound consequences, right? I mean, it
means you need to learn, right?
Yeah, I know. The problem is that we've just built, since the Marxist innovation, we've built a whole new network of lies.
Yes.
That are just means of evading responsibility, when the success of Western civilization has been, quote, what they call oppression, what we call adulting, or the maximum distribution of responsibility through demonstrated competency.
Right. That's it.
I mean,
so it's just narrative creation. It's just what we call in Hebrew Baal shit. They're generating a narrative for the purpose of social construction to consolidate power in the hands they want them in. That's
so the manosphere is right.
Again.
And that they're just, all this is shit testing, demanding males take responsibility because women don't want it.
Right.
And it's important because women don't want it because they don't want the friction to pay the cost of the social frictions in the social economy, right? So it's not irrational that women don't want responsibility for the commons, because it means that they have to bear all those costs, which could create friction. And they don't want to. They want men to bear those costs that create
Of course,
friction.
they're disposable.
Or because men are disposable. So it just makes perfect freaking sense. It's not, I mean, you can't, it's like, you've been trying to beat this into me for a year, but when I've said it's, okay, go ahead. Just get that face on if you want.
Just good. What is it? Go hit us.
Which is causality, responsibility, blame. And I mean, well, the cause is fucking nature. The responsibility is the actions taken by the person. The person's doing it, but doesn't mean they're to blame for it, right? And I always say that, well, if we're men and we're responsible for the polity, then it's our job to limit the expression to that which people can be responsible for, right? And so we just have to outlaw all this female behavior.
We have to regard the last 200 years as a prolonged shit test.
At least since the post-war, at least since 1918.
Yeah, it's just a shit test, and it's like, and the men are going.
Because the original Marxists are, they're wrong in thinking they can rule. I mean, that's just like women thinking they can be in charge. What a fucking clown world that would be. I was trying to get.
I know.
I was trying to get you with that one, and I got nothing. Man, you are impossible. You look at, it's like, at least you talk. Martin just sits there and says nothing.
Just looks at you funny.
It's absolutely depressing that I can't get anything out of that fucking guy. No matter what I try to do, create a shock effect, something, nothing. So boring. Anyways, so at least I get some sort of facial expression.
That's right.
But I mean, they're just women. And I was like, I had this great, I was meeting with I was in courthouse yesterday. So I just had a lot of opportunity to talk to other educated people. So there's a lawyer there, very attractive, same gene pool, right? As most American women are, a little on the heavy side. So I'm talking to her and I'm like, you mind if I share this little office with you? Because I don't want to be out here in the court. She says, no. Said it. And so I do my normal gregarious bullshit. We start talking. And of course we go to this nonsense about, and I said, well, the problem is that women are crazy and men are clueless. And why don't we just deal with it and take accountability for each other's limits? Like, I mean, men are going to say stupid shit to women because we're fucking clueless. And women are going to say stupid shit to men because they're fucking crazy, right? Now, these are just funny words, but they're actually statements of incompetency, natural incompetency, which is the reason we're different the way we are. So I don't know why. I mean, it didn't, I would say, well, I got this one time, which was that in a club from a woman, right? Because she found out I was American, and in her family, they don't want any
No
Americans.
Americans.
Right? Otherwise, she was fucking all over me before that, right? Right? No, really, it was awesome.
No, really.
So, I'm honest. Women are awesome.
I'm trying to keep you from becoming lost in the reverie.
Yeah. So she does this, and I'm like, that's a universal symptom anywhere for off.
Yes.
And you just do it, right?
That's right.
You don't.
It's not
happens,
a negotiable issue.
It's non-negotiable, and it really is a license for the other guys to beat the crap out of you.
Oh yes. Now you're transgressing.
If you ignore it, right? So she's like, no, and I'm like, she says, I can't remember she says, no, you're American. I can't Americans. I can't American, something like that.
I can't American.
Yeah. And of course it's loud, and it's it's like one of those bars where like they intentionally keep the space small and the bar large, so you're all loud, so you're all together, right? And so it's not even like, because they don't go there and do the dance thing. You're just there, and the music is playing, and you're just laughing and socializing and whatever. And it's very, I love the Ukrainian people, obviously. So she just goes like this, and I'm like, cool, thank you. I said, no, I put on the sad face is what I did.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right. In any event, why don't we have that here? Why isn't it okay for a woman to just say that? And there's no, that's it. You're a guy, you shut up and go away and leave her alone. Right? Just like that. I don't understand. Or why do guys say, what guys say when women start talking crazy? It's like, no. When they start talking crazy, you just shut them off from crazy talk, right? And which you got to understand that both men and women treat that rejection very seriously, right? But why don't we just have a way of rejecting each other that's like, okay. But then the thing what I liked about over there is that, women will put up with you being a bit of a clown. Right. So if you come up and hit on them or whatever, they'll just smile and say, no, thank you.
Right.
It's not a problem.
No harm, no foul.
No harm, no foul. And so I just view this whole demonization of the mating system.
Yes.
Right.
There's poison in the well, man.
It's poisoning the well. And then, and so I'm just like, they're just more civilized. It's just more civilized. And this whole created this cult of oppression and this cult of harm. And, it's just fucking evil. And they did it on purpose. They knew what they were doing. So, in any event, how did I get on that fucking rant?
Okay, use a rant. Just a rant.
It's fucking evil. Oh, and so I was talking to that woman there, and I said, I don't understand why women can't just say, I'm not interested, right? Or even thank you, but I'm not interested. That's the right way to handle it.
That's right.
Thank you, but I'm not interested. The guy, okay, I got that. I got to go. And you say, thank you, and it's just good manners, right?
That's right. It's just civil.
It's just civil.
And settle the account without hard feelings, right?
Yes. And then you have I've seen a couple of videos by women online, and it's like, can't you tell I'm interested in you? I'm like, absolutely not. We're men. We're clueless. And one of the things I like, one of the things I loved about Russian women and Ukrainians, Slavic women in general, is it's like, men, they're gorillas. They're just men, right? You don't have a higher expectation.
It's just an animal, man.
It's just, that's what men do. Okay, that's what men do. And it's like, okay, well, but you don't get mad about it, right?
That's
the
right.
Same way women are fucking crazy. They get emotional about crazy stuff. They're obsessed about meaningless nonsense. It's not meaningless to them.
That's right.
It matters to them. So you just sit there and you fucking listen. Okay, they're crazy, but you don't go off on them like we do and try to tell them they need to be rational. You don't
That doesn't
tell
work.
women they need to be rational.
Is it,
You
this
say,
is,
you're a woman. I understand, right? That's
and-
the man. That's good manners. You're a woman. I understand, right? You're right to
right.
feel that way.
That's right.
Okay. This is how you build a civil society between the sexes. It's just good fucking manners, right? So they turn, and all of a sudden, men are supposed to be mind readers. Dude, we don't have minds the way women do,
You
right?
don't
We
understand.
have machines, and they calculate and they do things and whatever. And it's like who's that? Who does a great job of this? One of the comedians says, "No, we can be perfectly happy doing nothing. We can put on a game. We can watch a fire. We can have a bottle of beer, right? And as long as there was some kind of meat in the past 24 hours, we can be perfectly happy." That's all it takes.
Wait, and that was a question?
That was a question. Oh, and if we got fucked in the last week,
Oh, my goodness.
we're probably yeah, it probably can't get better.
Whoa. Floating down, right?
That's all it takes if you're a guy, right? And so it's just funny. And so why can't we just accept the sex differences between us as incompetencies and treat it as manners?
I say not incompetencies, but limits of competency.
Limits of competency, yeah. We have different limits of competency, and just say, take the fucking compliment that the goofy, nerdy guy with the thick glasses and the funny teeth and whatever, right, who stutters over you, wants to buy you flowers. Say, "Oh, you're sweet, but no thanks, you're not. I'm not interested." And once you get that, that's it, right? But you got to get that.
That's unavoidable. The thing.
Right. That's clear, right?
Right. So signals.
I think it's this way. That's clear. It's unambiguous. It's not subtle female stuff. It's a physical, observable action that says, okay,
right. So it's
no.
signals of rejection.
No, but it's just
unequivocal.
Yeah, but it's not mean. It's just no.
No. It's just a signal.
Right. It's just, and I'm like, why can't we do that? And why can't guys say, I'm not gonna put up with.
No, this is funny because this is what the manosphere is talking about. The women were recognizing that the men are not putting up with the woke.
Yep.
And it's like, so I'm like this. I'm like, well, we need to make a lapel pin that's just like no woke. Don't even come near me with woke. Right? It's just
Yep.
For woke. And then it's clear and unequivocal. We're not going there.
Yep. Actually, I really like that idea.
I know you would. That's why I mentioned it. Anyway, there you have it. I want to put a wrap here. I think we're doing good work.
I think we're done.
You think so for the day?
I had a lot of fun today, Dr. Brad.
Good. I
great
appreciate that.
conversation.
We have to save some steam for tomorrow, some coffee for tomorrow.
I think I'm going to go to my favorite little Italian cafe and have, because I think the only thing I have left to eat in the house is oatmeal. So I think
won't do it all.
I'm going to have to go get some eggs and some hash browns.
There you go.
And I'm going to maybe call my buddy Frankie V. If he wants to come over. I miss my cop friend I mentioned lately. See if he wants to hang out or see that. And then I'm going to have a nice big breakfast and the hell with everybody else.
Very good. All right. Well, I'll chat with you tomorrow.
Love you, brother.
I'll send you a link.
Great talk today.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.